The offense has done nothing but impress through the last two games that Clemson has placed. But through the first three games, our defense has us with a little bit of concerns when we start off this season.
You are Locked On Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Locked On Clemson podcast. I'm your host, John Bivens. You can follow us over on Twitter at I am John Bivens or at LO_Clemson for the Locked On Clemson Twitter page. We are bringing that back. Make sure you're following that. We are a credentialed media member with Clemson football, baseball, basketball. Thanks so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast at and over on YouTube. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. Here on Locked On Clemson, we are bringing you all sports, all passion, all the time. We're bringing you everything you need to know regarding Clemson sports. Today is Tuesday evening, September 24th, where we're going to be talking about our defensive doubts. What are we worried about with Clemson football on defensive side? Talking about the big play returns on this Clemson offense. And then ACC basketball, the schedule for this year was released today, walking through that. We are grateful for all of our sponsors that make this show possible. For a full list of those, check out the episode notes below. The offense so far has done nothing but impress, but the defense has left us with a little bit of concerns. Look, I know if you look at the three games so far, Georgia was a blowout. That's one we don't talk about. It's in the past. Leave it alone. We're going to talk about it later, but leave it alone for now. App State game, we looked good, right? We scored a lot of points early. That first quarter looked great. Honestly, that second quarter for me is where the defensive, I really was a little concerned because our starters were still in the game for majority of that second quarter. And we let them kind of march the field on us. They didn't score a lot, but they scored some in that second quarter. Our defense definitely let up. And then this NC State game came, and we saw even more struggles. I know when you look at it at first glance out, it looks very much like, are you kidding me? We allowed 7 points in the first half. But I want to look a little deeper. When I'm looking at this game, when we're talking through this, I want to truly dive deep and talk about what is really under the surface here. What do we really have to focus on? What do we really have to look at with this defense? And I think there's some big areas so far that should show us a little bit of concern when it comes to this defense. I'm going to preface it with this. Our defense is still one of the top 10 in the nation. Our defense is still elite. I still think they're amazing. I just think there's some early season rust that still hasn't worked itself off, that needs to work itself off ASAP if we want to keep what we're doing going. The first thing I want to talk about is our depth. When it comes down to it, our defense really doesn't have a whole lot of depth. You can attribute that to the lack of transfer portal. You can attribute it to injury bugs. Do whatever you want. But the fact is, we don't have a huge level of depth there. When you're going through our team, our starting lineup is solid. Top to bottom started. TJ Parker, DeMonte Capehart, Peyton Page, Peter Woods, Barrett Carter, Wade Woodaz, Avian Terrell, Kylan Griffin, RJ Mickens, Jaden Lucas, Khalil Barnes. Elite. Top to bottom, great. There's not really a weak spot. There's a couple that I'm like, I wish you're a little better, but overall, really good. And honestly, young. There's four people that will be losing this offseason through this. We'll be losing DeMonte Capehart, who's a redshirt senior, Peyton Page, a senior, Barrett Carter, who's a senior, and then RJ Mickens, who's a graduate student. We'll be losing them. But at the same time, we still got some young, right? TJ Parker's only a sophomore. Peter Woods is a sophomore. Wade Woodaz Jr., Avian Terrell, sophomore. Khalil Barnes, sophomore. There's some young people there, young talent. But once you look past that starting lineup, there begins to have some holes. You start to see our defensive line I'm not worried about. I think our defensive line is one that's solid. We are DLU for a reason. I'm not worried about that. Linebackers, I'm a little worried about. I think Sammy Brown is good. He's a freshman. He's a huge recruit, or a huge prospect. I think he's going to be good. But as good as he is, he's not ready to kind of take up this mantle. He's not ready to jump in and be a consistent starter every single down. Which is why when we just had this injury at the linebacker unit this past couple weeks, it really shows something. It really causes a time for concern because outside of Sammy Brown, we got Jamal Anderson, who honestly Some people are high on him. I'm not. He's a sophomore. I don't think we've seen enough out of him to really be like, oh yeah, he's excellent. And then you have a redshirt freshman who's D. Creighton, who again I'm not huge on. I think he's good. I think he can be good in the future. Right now he's not. So the linebacker position, we have an excellent 1-2 punch with Barrett Carter, Wade Woodaz. But when you look at the depth, there's not a lot there. Sammy Brown is there. He could take over. He would take some time to get accustomed. I'm not worried about him, but beyond that, I'm really a little concerned there. So I think that's why the injury that happened where we lost one of our starting linebackers, one that was getting a lot of play, really affected us. And then our secondary, this for me is really the spot that's like, we need help here. Our secondary depth is very concerning. And a lot of people are like, why are you spending so much time talking about depth? Here's why. Last year, we lost to FSU in overtime. And I remember the play we lost on. The touchdown from FSU was rough. Nate Wiggins, who was a first-round draft pick for Clemson this year, went to the Baltimore Ravens. He left the FSU game late in the game with an injury. The second play of overtime, the FSU dropped back and they threw a deep pass for a touchdown, the second play of overtime, to score the touchdown. It was on the backup cornerback where Nate Wiggins was out. I want to say it was Khalil Barnes guarding him, who wasn't starting then, but he is this year. Our depth caused us to score that touchdown. Give up that touchdown on an easy play. Should not have been. The wide receiver literally just ran right by him. Now we're looking at it. Now we're thinking we're walking through this. And now we have to put ourselves in that mindset. What happens if, God forbid, Avian Terrell or Khalil Barnes now or Jaden Lucas? What happens if one of them go out with an injury? Well, our backups here does not look solid. You got Tyler Venables, which as much as I like his dad, all defensive coordinator, Venables, Brent Venables, I love him. Tyler just has not looked good at all. I think in all levels, Tyler has gone down on the depth chart, in my opinion. I don't think he's great. I honestly would put true freshman Ricardo Jones above Tyler right now. Brandon Strozier, I think he's good. I think he's quick, but I still have a lot of question marks there. Rob Billings, again, a lot of question marks there. Shelton Lewis, I think, is good. He had a couple mistakes in the NC State game, gave up a penalty. He had a couple mistakes there, but I'm good with him being depth. I'm comfortable with him being depth. And then you have true freshman Ashton Hampton, who, again, question mark, question mark, question mark. There's questions there. Our depth creates a lot of holes where we have some time to be concerned when it comes down to this defense. Overall, there is some situations where we are concerned about this defense moving forward, concerning. And not only depth, there's other areas that also leave us concerned when it comes to this Clemson defense. Because when we get in the ACC schedule, we're going to reach games where quarterbacks can light us up. There's quarterbacks all throughout this league that are really talented. Honestly, I think we've underrated a quarterback class in the ACC right now. We need depth. We don't need just starters because football is a contact sport, heavy contact. Injuries happen, cramps happen, rest is needed. We need people that can step in. Our depth is a big area for concern right now. We come back, I want to talk about how CJ Bailey, the freshman starter for NC State, how his performance against the Clemson Tigers this past Saturday leaves even more doubts in that kind of situation. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. College football is officially back and it's going strong. NFL's kicking off, going well. Hashtag FlyBurgsFly. And I am watching all kinds of sport. Make sure you grab a 5-hour energy shot to stay alert with all your favorite games. If you're watching as much sports as I am, even maybe some of those late night games going to overtime, the next morning, 5-hour energy gets you alert and gets you going for a busy day. With zero sugar, a convenient portable size, it is the perfect pick me up for getting stuff done. The 5-hour energy website has flavors galore. It has my favorite watermelon, has tropical burst, grape, berry. Berry used to be my favorite, but I tried that watermelon. But there is so much flavor for everybody. Try them all. On the site, you even have the option to build your own 12-pack or 24-pack. You choose the flavors, and it's delivered right to your door. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that's the number 5energy.com, get some 5-hour energy product today. You can use my promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. CJ Bailey's performance against NC State really leaves us with a little bit of concern. I think there's a lot of what he did, the level that CJ Bailey played against Clemson leaves us with a little bit of concern when we're looking forward to this defense. Look, I know I'm saying all this, and some of you are like, we were up by 38. We were up by so many points at the end of the first half. We allowed 7 points in the first half. I get that. I'm not trying to be looking for down. I'm not looking for things to harp on. I'm not looking for negatives. What I'm doing is I'm trying to see, all right, we played NC State and our offense dominated them. What are some areas where NC State's a down team this year? They're nowhere near what the expectations were. You can hear from Kenton and Grayson that we joined last week with and did the crossover episode. Their expectations have sharply went down. And so with a team down that bad, CJ Bailey played well. And because of that, does that not open us up for even more concerns as we're looking at this team? For instance, let's just look at what CJ Bailey did. CJ Bailey made a difference. In the first quarter alone, CJ went 6 for 6 with 90 yards. So it went perfect in the first quarter with 90 yards. He did have a couple turnovers. He had one where he lost a fumble. So that one hurt him a lot. But honestly, that fumble was something that anyone would have fumbled that ball. He got hit from the blind side really hard while he's in the pocket. I mean, just level, didn't see it coming at all, dropped the ball. The second turnover wasn't him, was a wide receiver that fumbled it. Concepcion fumbled it on the sidelines where we got it. So he had 2 for turnovers, which caused the empty drives. They punted on the first one. We went down, scored 14-0. Turned the ball over, scored 21-0, turned the ball over, scored 28-0. That's how we took a 28-0 lead in that first quarter. My concern is this. If we don't get those 2 turnovers, which I know ifs and buts, fruits and nuts with all Merry Christmas, whatever the phrase is. If we don't get those first 2 turnovers, which let's be real, both of those were very plays that honestly, we can't be counting on to have those kind of plays. We can't be counting on a defensive edge rusher to go untouched straight to a freshman quarterback where he's going to drop the ball. We can't be counting on one of the best wide receivers in the ACC to get stripped on the sideline fighting for a first down. Now, I could be wrong. Our defense could be that elite where that's the play we can expect. But seeing them play against Georgia, seeing them against even App State, the turnovers, we're not forcing a whole lot of turnovers early in the game. So with that, if we go down and they don't get that, they don't have 2 turnovers in the first quarter. If that's the case, we don't go up 28-0. And CJ Bailey was having a good game. He was 6 for 6 to start the game with 90 yards. What's to say he doesn't go down and score? So now that 28-0 turns into possibly a 21-14, 21-7. That's a completely different ball game. That completely changes it all. We've got to find a way to stop that. And here's the thing that's concerning to me. This was his first start. A true freshman, first start in college football was at Death Valley, and we allowed him to go 6 for 6 and gave up 90 yards. I hope you're starting to see where these concerns are coming from. The concerns are not found in the score. I'm not looking at the amount of points that NC State scored overall in the game. Honestly, the last 21 points they scored in the fourth quarter, Clemson was just trying to run out the clock anyway. They weren't trying to force the ball on offense. Our starters defense, our second string defense wasn't even in. We played more games than we've ever played against a Power 5 conference opponent ever. I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at the fact that in the first quarter alone, we allowed a first-time starter, true freshman, that had only played in a half of football before this, came in relief because his quarterback was injured. We allowed him to start 100% for 90 yards in the first quarter. When you look at his overall stats, honestly, his stats aren't bad this game. He went 16 for 25, which is a good performance. I mean, he's throwing almost 70% for over 200 yards. He had 204 yards with 1 touchdown and 1 interception. He also came and he ran for a bunch. He had some good plays on the ground. He ended up with negative yards because in college football, sacks count as a negative rush yards for the quarterback. Agree or disagree, that's what it is. But he had a couple good runs. I think his longest was 7, but he did have that fumble, which hurt. We allowed this freshman quarterback to come in and have a good game against us. Stats don't say it, right? We went into halftime 45-7. We went into the third quarter 59-14. Points, I'm not talking points. What I'm talking about is strictly this. What we allowed that freshman quarterback to do can cause concerns. That should show levels where we're concerned about what truly of a program, where our defense was at. Am I saying that we should be throwing the towel, raise the panic alarm, right? Emergency. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying anything is wrong. I'm not saying anything is this true level of freak out level. I'm not saying anything like that at all. What I'm saying is what I saw against NC State, what we all saw from CJ Bailey and what he did. That should be something that could cause them worry. Because what happens when we get down and we face more experienced programs? FSU, their quarterback, DJU, right? He's experienced. Is he looking great this year? No. But if a true freshman can go 6 for 90 yards, what can DJU do when he's hyped up to play his old team that gave up on him? Louisville's quarterbacks looks great. What can he do? South Carolina has a team that's looking great. What is he going to be able to do? There's different quarterbacks that we're going to face, much more experienced, much more talented, and proven. I'll say proven instead of talented than CJ Bailey right now. What are they going to be able to do if we're letting a true freshman do this? That's my concern. That's where the doubts are coming in. When it comes down to this Clemson defense, the two areas that I'm concerned about the most are one, our depth, and two, honestly, seeing what CJ Bailey did against Clemson is concerning. The third area, and this is a more specifically ball-focused area of concern, is we've got to fix something about some pre-snap movement. Something about pre-snap is causing Clemson a lot of problems. Go back to that Georgia game. They had that fake jet sweep across that ended up with a huge play of gain. So far, whenever the ball people are moving before the snap, against App State it happened, against NC State it happened, against Georgia it happened the entire game. Anytime they have some pre-snap movement, our players just seem confused. They take a while to get set. Honestly, there was multiple times in the past two games where they would have some pre-snap movement, and then NC State or App State wouldn't snap it again for another 5 to 6 seconds, where Clemson is still getting in possession. If we're playing a more experienced quarterback, a more experienced team, they're running that pre-snap movement and they're hiking the ball, even if we're set or not. Like, we're not going to have opponents that let us get set every single time like NC State and App State did. We need to make sure that we can finish off setting up these movements. When people are moving across, when a wide receiver motions, when halfback goes out, when we're seeing these pre-snap movements, we need to make sure our defense knows what to do, can expect what the movements are going to be, and can get set quick. We should not be getting set 5 to 10 seconds after the wide receivers are set. We should be, when they get set, we're there with them. We're moving along. That's concerning. That's a spot that really is showing me where it's like, that's got to be fixed ASAP. That has got to be a problem that's happening. That doesn't happen ever. What I'm saying is we're 3 games in, and I don't think any of the problems we're showing is like, oh, sound the alarm, freaking out. No, I think it's rust. I think it's off-season rust that's still apparent. And what's worrying me is we're 3 games in and we're still seeing a little bit of that. Again, we dominated the past 2 games. Played absolutely incredible. We are going to have games where our offense is a little slower. We're not going to score 50-plus points every game. We're not going to score over 1,000 yards between 2 different games every single game, right? What happens when our offense is a little slow? We need to have a defense that we can rely on. And so far, this defense, as great as they've been great. I'm not trying to discredit them. I'm just pointing out a couple areas that we need to see improved so this great defense can continue being the elite defense that we know Clemson to be. That's what we're trying to point out. But we've talked a lot about our defense. Now let's talk about some offense. What's been the biggest contribution to Clemson's offense doing that 180 turn they've done since last year?
Jarvis Davis here for FanDuel. You heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So guess what? I'm about to tell you a little bit more. We got a little something just for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. It doesn't matter if you're a fan of the Atlanta Falcons, the Carolina Panthers, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Las Vegas Raiders. It doesn't matter, because guess what? With a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. Yes, every regular season out-of-market game. That is so dope. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. So just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon and make sure you download America's #1 sportsbook.
The big play threat this year has been the true difference maker for the Clemson offense. Look, it's no secret. Everybody knows this. The past couple years, Clemson offense has struggled with big plays. We've struggled with the chunk plays, with explosive plays, with the ones that really create momentum and continue momentum and push this offense along. We've struggled with that. There's no secret in that. This year, Cade Klubnik has brought a level, has brought a certain confidence in these big plays, the deep passes. He's brought that back. And I believe that's been the true difference maker in this Clemson offense. This is something, the deep play, the explosive plays, the aggressive ones, that's what really defined this offense for Clemson in the Trevor Lawrence years, in the Deshaun Watson years. 21, 22, 23, that wasn't the case. And here's a stat that'll completely prove my point. Last year in 2023, Cade Klubnik completed 12 passes for 20 yards or more. 12 passes. That is less than one a game. We finished the year, we played 13 games last year. That's less than one a game. He didn't complete one pass of 20 yards or more at every single game. That's hard, that's rough, right? That's not Clemson ball. So far in 2024, Cade Klubnik has completed 8 20-yard or more passes down the field just this season in 3 games. In 3 games, we've hit 2/3 of what we hit last year. That's huge. That truly shows the difference in this offense. He's bringing back this dimension of Clemson football that allows for the long plays, that allows for more than just a small play, that allows for more than just consistent plays, marching for a 3rd down. No, we're not playing 3-down ball. We're playing 1st and 2nd down, getting yards, limiting the 3rd down, limiting long and 3rd and long. We're having those explosive plays. Cade Klubnik, his level has truly improved and has brought back this deep ball. And not only has that helped, but it's also helped our rush game against against App State. Phil Maffa had an 83-yard touchdown run. That was the longest touchdown run since Trevor Lawrence's run against Ohio State. He also had another almost a 40-yard run against NC State. Cade Klubnik had the first possession, had that 55-yard untouched touchdown run against NC State. This offense success is the main contribution to what's bringing success from is Cade Klubnik allowing and creating this rhythm, creating this system, and guiding this offense to where the big plays are happening. Phil Maffa's getting down the line. Cade Klubnik's hitting the open receivers, hitting them deep. He's being able to have this confidence. And there's a lot of contributions that go into this and improve offensive line. If you can hear that, thunder is going crazy right now. This storm's going to be wild. But either way, Cade Klubnik has truly made this massive difference, and he's brought back this level where big plays can happen. And it's like we were saying, it can be attributed to a lot of different factors. An improved offensive line with Matt Luke, a year 2 in Garrett Riley offense. I believe Garrett Riley is having more full reign. He has more free reign in this offense than he has in the past, especially that Georgia game. Different play calling. We're having the aggressive play calling rather than the safe ones. And the biggest one that we've talked about, Cade Klubnik, he's embracing this playmaker style rather than a game manager style. He's no longer being I'm going to sit back and let my teammates carry the game. I'm going to be up there in the middle of it. All that is allowing Cade Klubnik to bring back this deep ball that truly makes a difference. We put up a poll on our YouTube community page where if you haven't checked that out, make sure you check that out. What it is we try to put up polls on our channel on YouTube, and we're going to start doing it on the Locked On Twitter page as well. But we just ask simple questions about what you as the fans, what you as the viewers believe about this Clemson team. And we put on yesterday, what aspect of Cade Klubnik's game do you think has improved the most this season? And there was 4 options with the option to put your 5th one. Talks about comfort in the pocket. Talks about aggressive throws. That was one of the options. Decision-making and the running game. All those were the questions, what do you think has improved the most? And the vast majority of you, 2/3 of the people that voted, says his decision-making is what led to it. And I would say that helps. I would 100% say that helps. We had a guy comment, Porsche Pal 7932. Here's what he said. He said he's been decisive and he's anticipating throws to receivers before they're even out of their break. When you have that kind of timing between quarterback and receiver, you can't defend unless you play zone defense. Look, I agree. I agree with all you. I think decision making is on point. That anticipation, right? The confidence to know where your receiver is going to be and hit him in stride. Those are all huge. And I think those all come back to where Cade is allowing this big play mentality. He's allowing the system to have these explosive chunk plays, which is something we haven't had in multiple years. And that's one of the biggest reasons that we can be excited about this offense. That's one of the biggest contributions to why this offense is so much different than the past couple of years. I can't wait to see it. This Saturday, we play Stanford. Our second time that a West Coast opponent has been to Death Valley in Clemson. The first time was opener in 1990 season with Long Beach. This is only second time a West Coast team has been in Clemson. So excited to see this game. It's going to be great. First time facing them. Can't wait to see what happens. But I'm just can't wait to see if this offense continues to do this. If this is the new norm for this offense to be explosive, deep plays, Cade lighting it up. Or are we going to see Cade's first full game this season outside of the Georgia game? Or is it going to be another one half and done? We're going to see. Can't wait to see all that. We're also this week, we're going to dive in more on that. We're going to dive in more a preview for that Stanford game. We're also going to dive into college basketball a little bit. Our ACC schedule was released today. What does that mean for Clemson? What is next season going to look like? It's going to be a lot. It's going to be fun. Can't wait to talk through all of that. But with all that being said, that is going to wrap up this episode of Locked On Clemson. Thanks so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen every day. Now go check out Locked On College Football Podcast. From NIL deals to never-ending conference realignment rumors, Spencer McCaughlin gets you set for an amazing season. It is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Later this week, we're going to dive in, like we talked about, a preview for the Stanford game, college basketball, all that and more. Make sure you join our Locked On Clemson Insider Program. Text Clemson to 864-252-1907. Let us know your thoughts on today's topic. Drop a comment. Make sure you're subscribed no matter where you're listening or watching on. We can't wait to see you on tomorrow's episode. Until then, make sure you keep that Tiger Pride alive and roaring. And as always, go Tigers.